to get the recording started, and then I will just be a minute or so. I'm looking for something to talk about.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
Defend objective A.
Baptiste,
I'll just take the objective.
much better.
Okay, nice shots. Probably could be using Helix here to help finish off the hog as well. So here we get him down pretty low. And we probably want to be helixing right around here because if you glance at his health bar, that is, I believe, yeah, that's low enough for your Helix to finish him off. Helix, just for your own reference, does 120 damage. So him being 64, Helix, if we had used that, would finish him off, not let him get away. So whenever we're helixing, we might talk more on this in the future, but a lot of the times Helix can be used really well as a finisher to burst their health down. And when we burst their health down, they don't have he doesn't have time to run around the corner, to use his health, to get away, escape, use tanking abilities, movement abilities, etc. Right? So bursting is always better because it secures the kill. So here, Helix can
Sure.
definitely just secure the kill on Hog instead of letting him get away. Sorry, I'm gonna turn down my sound real quick. Okay. Anytime we are walking somewhere and we're not actively shooting, we want to be sprinting. So here, so like, even just like these tiny little instances where like, Hog goes around the corner and we kind of like pause before we're sprinting. Okay, so there we sprint, and then here we see Hog, and then we're walking to the side, and then we kind of pause before sprinting, pause, and then we sprint. And then let's see, so I'm noticing that a little bit here. So basically just anytime you're not shooting and moving somewhere, you're sprinting, just we can do it faster. Let me see if I can find another instance of that.
No, yeah, it's definitely something I do. Just a quick question, and something that, I mean, for the month and a half I've been playing, maybe I should have tried it, but can I sprint at a 90-degree angle? So could I sprint right without looking that direction, or does it have to be...
No, so it would, I believe it would cancel the sprint if you like were to press your A and D buttons. So if you're trying to walk sideways while sprinting, you can't walk sideways while sprinting.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So in that instance then, because in my head I was just trying to keep eyes on him, but realistically I should have just turned and sprint anyway.
Yeah, like if we're realistically, like we can just turn to the side, sprint over, and then we can turn back around if we're trying to keep eyes on the Hog. Maybe we could be taking high ground there, or potentially like if you saw that he's low, you could be pushing him, that sort of thing. You can be going over and trying to finish him off. Honestly, yeah. So I'll see if I can find more instances of it. I thought that was a better instance, but then it wasn't
Oh
as bad
no,
as
that's
I thought
fine.
it
No,
was.
it's going to be all over the place. I know I do that all the time. Unnecessary heal there.
Yeah. The other thing is that if you plan to heal up anyways, maybe we can come over right here and heal so that we can kind of be healing up as we're peaking, and we kind of get to be out in the open longer. It's just less downtime, and we get to also stay here for a longer duration of time while being healed.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, let me get hooked. So there, we die because we don't see him or hear him. So make sure we're keeping our eyes and ears open, watching our flanks, thinking through like, okay, well, where is the Hog at? And then also keeping our ears open, which maybe we'll discuss more of as we go along, on audio awareness.
Sure.
Oh, all right. So why don't we go over audio awareness real quick? Because that's now, over to
Why?
that's twice now the Hog gets us. And in both of these cases, the primary thing, not the only thing, the primary thing that gets us killed is the fact that we don't know that he's there. Like it's just a surprise, right? Like there's not really much we can do because we can't dodge him, we can't run away, we can't do really anything just because he drops on us and we didn't know that he was coming. Right, so that's the problem. It's awareness. It's paying attention to our surroundings. And the primary way we could have paid attention was through our ears and listening. So let's go over to audio settings real quick. Firstly, I'd recommend turning volume up. Right, it's very subjective because everyone has different system sounds, but you should be able to hear everyone well enough. So I just make sure that it's loud enough. Then besides that, music, I'd recommend turning off or down just because that can clutter with your audio and add in extra noise. Then besides that, you want to make sure that you have now on this one. I'm unsure if they have this on console or not, because I think at one point they didn't, but I'm not sure if they added it for Overwatch 2. But check your own headset and make sure that you have surround sound enabled. And if you do not have surround sound as an option at all with your headset, then you can go in game to device to spatial audio where it says system settings here and turn on Dolby Atmos for headphones, which is basically the in-game option for surround sound, which will give you sound that surrounds you rather than being stereo, or sorry, rather than being mono-directional, where it's just like kind of every sound is coming from one direction. Then besides that, another thing that can be handy that doesn't directly pertain to the hog killing us would be play sound when enemy eliminated and when teammate are eliminated. This is basically like an audio, and you can turn these on. This is basically an audio version of the kill feed. It will give you ping sounds as people die. They will differ in pitch depending on how many are dead and if it's a teammate or enemy died.
Sure, cool. I
All
had
right.
like for the volume, I just had everything at the default, which is all at 100%. So
Yeah.
that'll probably help me quite a lot.
Yep. So I mean, you might be able to keep master there. I might, yeah. Once again, I might lower music a hair. Then besides that, you could have all those settings be perfect and still have bad audio awareness if you're not actually listening and paying attention. So part of having good audio awareness is making sure you're actively listening for footsteps and gunshots and abilities and ultimates, particularly Roadhog's footsteps here because he's big and clunky. He goes boof, 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 boof as he's walking around. So we want to make sure that we're actively listening and paying attention for it. And especially if this seems to be a repetitive issue, maybe something to focus on, which will go more into the application focusing later on.
Sure.
The payload is in our care.
This ends now.
Okay. So once they start using ultimates like Kitsune Rush, we probably want to start just backing up. So walked back into a already lost fight essentially. So point or even like this point back here, let's like glance at this, right? Moira dies. We're going to now go over how do you tell whether or not you've won or lost a fight. This is handy info to know because it will dictate a lot of your gameplay and when do we push in, when do we back out. Primarily, the primary way, not the only way, this is the basics of it, is to make sure that while you're going through that you are watching kill feed. And kill feed's top right corner of your screen. They'll tell you when you're up and down people and when you are up 1 to 2 or up or down, right? So if you're up people or down people, up or down 1 to 2 people, that is an advantage or a disadvantage, in which case you play more aggressive or more passive. When you are up or down 2 to 3 people, that in that case, that's going to be a won or lost fight, in which case you get extra aggressive if you've won. If you've lost, you get out if you can, and if you can't, you let them kill you. That way you don't stagger yourself. And you also don't want to use ultimates in won or lost fights. So here, this is an example where this is a lost fight. They are up currently by 2 people, and they're also using ultimates, and therefore we just want to be regrouping. go in and let them kill us as soon as possible so that we're not staggering ourselves, which is
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like for me, like I'm so terrible. I know that I'm a hungry person at the moment, and I put myself in so many bad situations. So like my deaths are always the highest deaths on the team for sure. Like in every situation. Um, so apologies. What was your question?
for what is staggering. Staggering just is anytime you're dying late. And then dying late is now you come back to spawn, your teammates are all ahead of you. They have two choices. Either they can go in without you, in which case now they're at a disadvantage. Or they can start a stagger train where one person goes in and then they die, and then the next person goes in and they die, and then two people go in and then they die. And that is also really, really bad. And then the last option is like if they just wait for you, and then you've just wasted time.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure.
So why don't we can get back here? Definitely, probably just wanted to be backing out way sooner here.
And also turning around and sprinting rather than keeping eyes on. You say,
Yep.
yeah.
Exactly.
Come on, let's get that thing.
Uh-oh, that's number 3, right? All right. So, why don't we talk about survivability real quick? Because you said that you usually tend to struggle to stay alive in your games, and then this is now death 4 in 3 minutes. So let's discuss survivability real quick. So let's say we keep up the same death rate. Let's say we die at a similar pacing. Let's just, for simplicity's sake, this is a little bit over a 1 a minute death, but let's just say that it's once a minute we die, right? Let's take out for this game, this is a competitive game, I would assume, from it being 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
So let's take out the the in between rounds. Let's just say it's like a 21 minute game, right? 21 minutes. I would sure hope that you don't have 21 deaths. So let's be a little bit lenient. Let's go even lower. Let's be on the give you the benefit of the doubt. Let's say you had 18 deaths this game. Right, just
Yeah.
keeping up with that same pacing, giving you the benefit of the doubt as well. So 18 deaths for this game. Each death that you have, everyone knows that deaths are bad, but sometimes they don't know how bad it really is. It's actually worse than usually people actually think they are. Every time you die, it is 10 seconds of respawning, but then also 10 seconds of walking back from spawn. So that's about 20 seconds per death. So if we do that quick math, that's 18 times 20, right? And then divide by 60 would mean that we are dead for an entire 6 minutes of the game, right? Which is a lot of time to be dead for. That is in this game. Let's do a quick 22 divided by 6. That means we'd be dead for around like 3.6 out of 6. No, what am I doing there? That doesn't math right. But we're dead for basically a third of the game or a fourth of the game, right? Which is a lot of time to be dead for. That's in that time you could probably be getting maybe like 3 visors off. You could be getting a lot of kills, a lot of or a lot of damage in there, winning a lot of fights. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that it's not just a lack of value when you die, it is also negative value when you die. Because now that you die, that is your impact on losing that fight. You waste time for your team, you put your team at a disadvantage. That's now meaning that you are unable to get value. You're not going to be able to carry your team. So if you're trying to climb, you're never going to be able to climb if you're not able to carry your teammates. So all in all, deaths are really, really bad. Right. All makes sense.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yep. So now that we've established that deaths are bad, how do we fix it? Right? What's like what do we do? Well, this is kind of the process. Deaths are usually an easy way to explain this, but this is the process of really fixing any mistake. So this is the self-improvement process. But what you want to do is you want to think about, right as you die, right? So you have like 20 seconds as you respawn. Right? Think about the question, okay, well, what was the mistake? Well, the mistake is that we died. what was the issue within the mistake? Okay, well, thinking about like why did we die, right? What was the reason for which we died? So what would you say are some common reasons why people die?
Not being sort of aware of where the team are, like often finding, like personally, I always find myself in 2v1s, which makes it incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
I'm also often probably too far forward and not being behind the tank, so like when a Roadhog is going to hook, I'm the first target.
Yep.
But yeah, just not playing, like, I'm very much playing a Rambo game type right now. I'm not really paying attention to what my team are doing. I'm trying to have solo impact without being aware that actually contributing to the team is more of an impact than actually
Yeah.
just shooting at people randomly.
Yeah, exactly. So, to simplify some things you said there, there's over aggression, going too far forwards. There's maybe taking your duels wrong, or a lack of awareness, as we've seen 3 deaths due to lack of audio awareness, right?
Yeah.
There is poor positioning, such as being out in the open. There is a misuse of abilities, such as not healing when you need it, or not sprinting away when you could have. And then maybe there's also a bit of like movement sometimes, like if you're standing still. But those are usually the common ones, and they come in like big categories. And you want to look to identify, okay, well, why did I die there? What could I have done differently? And that's now moving on to like the solution, the application of what could you have done instead. Usually that's the vice versa. So if you are dying because you're not being aware, well, being aware then therefore helps you not die. If you are dying because you're out in the open, then therefore using cover, the adverse to that, would help you stay alive. And then application, why don't we go over application real quick? You put these things that we're talking about into practice, pretty much the same way you'd work on anything, and that is that while you're playing, you want to make sure that you're actively focusing on the thing you're trying to work on. That means not autopiloting, not just playing to play, and contrary to popular belief, not purely playing to win, because then you just end up stagnating, whereas when you play to improve, you end up going places, and winning more. Then what that actually looks like within your gameplay is you're going to pick something out. So let's say, for example, you pick out survivability, right, as the main thing to work on, and you are going to think to yourself, staying alive, right, survivability, but you're going to constantly give yourself a stream of reminders to think through survivability, awareness, right, giving yourself that stream of reminders means that you're probably going to be thinking about it much more often, and when you're thinking about it much more often, you're probably going to stay alive a bit more, and that will make your survivability better. When your survivability is better, then that means that you're going to be able to. It's basically just going to form as a habit as if you do it long enough. If you work on it for a long enough period of time, it'll form it as a habit. Then after you formed it as a habit, then it just kind of comes naturally. You don't really need to think about it as much, and then you can move on to something else to work on. Final thing is, don't try to do everything all at the same time. We're going to talk about a lot of different stuff. Instead, focus on one category of things, or 1 to 3 smaller things within a category. So that's really my recommendation there, is just focus while you're playing. All makes sense?
Absolutely.
All right.
Look at this payload go!
We'll go off on a Rambo adventure again.
Which Soldier is pretty flanky as a character. You don't need to. Yeah, Soldier's pretty flanky as a character. You don't always need to be sticking with your team. Just want to be careful. Like, for example, here, noting, okay, this is Soldier, and he has a damage boost, which means that who's with him?
A Mercy.
Mercy. So make sure that you're not taking duel, and this goes into what you were saying before. Make sure you're not taking duels that you know you're at a disadvantage in. So that means that if it's a 2v1, that's a disadvantage. If you're low health, that's a disadvantage. If you don't have any abilities, if if let's say they get the jump on you, those are all disadvantages. But you do take duels where you're either neutral or you have the advantage. So you try to force duels where you have the advantage, and then you try to run away from duels that you have a disadvantage in. Here, maybe we could try this if we probably you wanted a helix first. We'll maybe go over more helix stuff in a minute. But maybe we could try to burst him down a helix, but helix comes a bit late and then we miss it. It was the issue. And that could have maybe bursted him down. We also drop our health pack and then walk out of it. Unfortunately there. And then also he like runs up behind us and he drops and runs around and we hear him like we walk back in this room. And then he's probably just gonna shred us, I would imagine. So probably just wanted to keep running. Just run.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So really quickly, let's back up and do this. Right. So at this point, it's in here is just be really careful about that. Then the other thing is while you're ulting, don't be afraid to still helix, as that can add in even more burst damage than your ultimate can provide. So look into helix too when soldiers low here. Also looking to go for headshots in your ultimate is another thing. Since that allow you to do extra damage. Yep, and then they end up just rezzing it, and then it looks like you're about to die here. Yep.
Yeah.
So once again, like, why are we dying? Okay, well, she hops up here right next to you, and it didn't seem that we really noticed her. She gets a shot off on her. Probably should just be like running and jumping out the window at the moment, but we kind of curve off to the right hand side. So just once again, instead of disengaging and running away, we're kind of staying in the duel that we're at a disadvantage in. Okay, that's once again another death. Noting that ultimate firstly came at kind of outside of the fight, which usually the best place for your ultimates is going to be at the start of the fight. So start of fight is best time for ultimate. Mid fight is okay. It's usually pretty, it's decent. It kind of depends a little bit. Late fight is very situational, right? Is it needed? In between fights, which would include before the fight starts, that is usually the no-no. It's very rare do you want to be ulting during that time. Maybe if it's like last fight, or if you're trying like that, that's usually gonna be like one of the times that you can do it. It's last fight of the round. But besides that, very rare do you want to be ulting in between rounds. Yeah, so and then we also, on top of the mistiming of it, we also held on to it for a couple of fights. So make sure we're looking to use our ultimate, because we used it. I think we maybe used it like on the second or third fight that we had it. So if we're using at the first fight that we have it, then that means that we get out basically like an extra ultimate in that time. We could have used 2 ults in the time that we used 1, and that can get you a lot more value out of your game if you're getting 2 for the price of 1, essentially. So don't hold on to your ultimates is another thing I'd say.
Okay.
It's go time.
Okay, we're going to take a minute to cover all the positioning stuff, because it seems like we're kind of not like incredibly off with it all the time, but I think we're like it's just you need a little bit of everything here with it. Firstly, I guess let's go over helix usage. Firstly, don't toss helix directly on top of somebody, because if we miss, it just goes sailing past them. But instead, when you helix, you want to look, you usually want to be aiming head level, but when we helix, we look down at their feet, because then if we hit them, we get the direct shot, and if we miss, we get the splash damage, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to be head level, and then you look down to the feet real quick. So head, feet, and then that way we get, you know, the easy helixes. Now, beyond that, another thing is helix, usually when you're, it kind of depends on what range you're at. So usually the split is about 20 meters or so. So that's like here to there. 20 meters, if you're within 20 meters, then helix acts best as a finisher. So we go tap, 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 helix, and then we burst them down. That it usually acts really good as a finisher, means that they don't really have, as we've discussed that before, they don't really have time to get away. But if you go further away, well, then you're going to notice that it doesn't really act as good of a finisher anymore for two reasons. Well, one, because from back here, it just has such a delay before it hits them, so they still have time to to use other abilities and get away, so it's more delayed. And then the other thing is it's less accurate because it's further away, smaller target, and also projectiles are harder to hit at a range. So back here, you might be better off helixing to engage, so you helix and then you shoot them, which kind of bursts all the damage together all at the same time. So 20 meters in front, you use it as a finisher. Beyond, you use it as the opener. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Okay. So then let's go over some positioning. So positioning, piece number 1. Let's go over soldiers ranging real quick. Soldier, as a character, does not like to be on top of people. He can be, doesn't prefer to be on top of people, because there's other characters that do this better than you. So think Reaper, May, Reinhardt, Ramatra, etc. You know, all these characters are going to prefer this distance more than you. So we don't want to be there. Usually, you're more of a mid-ranged character. So let's start at about, like, let's say, usually about like 15 meters away, kind of as a starting point, right, of your mid-range, right? So about here from people. Then we also want to be careful that we're not going too far away. So from here we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shots to kill. But the further away we go, right, if we come back all the way over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shots to kill. That's called fall off damage. You do less damage the further away you go. This gets really extreme if we even come back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Right? Basically doing half the damage that we would be doing up there. Or less than half. Sorry, that's like a third. So be real careful that you're not going too far away. The other thing is that at this range, we're going to have a harder time hitting them. Smaller target means harder to hit. This is much easier to hit than that all the way over there. Also, Helix rocket, once again, is going to be less accurate because it's a projectile. So that's all things to be paying attention to. Make sure you're not going too far. So 15 meters, and then usually about like a 30-meter cap. So right, so like 15 to 30 is usually going to be your average mid-range. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Often, like, I'll see you come into fights, and we're kind of like sitting back here when we don't need to be. Yeah, and then even like getting as close as possible, as long as it's safe, getting as close as possible is going to be more beneficial, just because it's easier to hit targets, right? The only times you want to be you'd want to be on this back end of the 30 meters would be if they have closer range, like much closer ranges than you, if you have high grounds, if the situation calls for it. But you know, sometimes you can be much closer up here, and it'd be more beneficial for you. So it's just kind of going to be situation by situation dependent. Now let's talk about general positioning. That was soldier ranging. Now general positioning. If I'm standing right here, and the enemy team's all looking at me and shooting at me, it's going to take about, let's say, you know, we're on a character who can't sprint, or I mean, even if we sprint, you know, it's the same difference. It's going to take us 1, 2, 2.5, right? So, you know, we come up around here, 2.5 seconds to get here. From this cover, you cannot get shot at. You're perfectly safe, right? Their whole team is shooting at you. Now they can't shoot at you. Can't shoot through solid objects. But in that time it took you to walk here, you died because you're out in the open for way too long. And then from here, well, we can do pretty much all the same stuff, except for it takes us half a second to duck behind cover, which is going to be like 5 times faster than what it just took us previously to duck behind cover. So therefore, good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover. So the further away we stray from it, the worse off we're going to be. Then, besides that, cover's all over the place. You can use slopes like so. You can use pillars in between shots when you're reloading, when you're taking damage. Corners that do the same thing. Random objects like the payload do this. Pillar, corner, corner, doorway. Then besides that, high ground all acts as natural cover. They can see you. Now they can't. You can see you. Now they can't. That adds extra survivability. On top of that, pretty much 2/3 of the characters in the game can't reach you without taking the stairs. This gives you an additional layer of survivability. And then the third that can reach you, they need to use their abilities. And then finally, on the high ground, we have a ton of visibility. We can see over here, 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 but we're on the low ground where we can't really see over there, can't really see over there, and then we can't really see any of the high ground. All right. Any questions on any of that? Make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
Being the high ground a bit more, using cover a bit, proper ranging a bit more, like all of the above, pretty much. Trying to think here. Seen it too often.
Now traveling to Paraiso. Ready for battle.
Look at this baby.
It's go time.
So like for example here, how this is past that 30-meter mark. This is like more like the 35-meter mark. So just want to be careful that we're not just kind of sitting back at this range. Would be a bit more, and then we kind of even back up even further, and then we're running off to this side, looking for the
I
Kiriko.
thought I heard someone above me at that point, which is why I was just checking to make sure I didn't get flanked. But assuming that I hadn't heard that, at this point, would you say the best thing to do would be to run up to the wall on the right, just under the bridge, and sort of sit around that area, just where you are now? Yeah.
Yeah, assuming Kiriko's not there, then yeah, for sure. Like this would be perfectly fine to do. Yep. And then because this
Cool.
would get us closer while still using cover, or even potentially like if you're struggling to see those guys behind cart, then left side would be fine too. That sort of
Yeah.
thing. Don't necessarily need to run like all the way around like this side to be able to see her. We could probably just like look up and just wait for her to turn, to drop down or that sort of thing. We were just shooting, so but they potentially, yeah, they would potentially know that we're there.
Counted me out.
Good helix. Okay, and this is now the second health pack in a row that we've dropped when we're full HP and not taking damage. So watch your health, use it when you need it, and then also like watch, are we actively taking damage? Whereas here we don't even have people looking at us or shooting at us yet. So just be careful that we're not misusing that. So once again, identifying when have we won and lost fights. Can't like poke at them a little bit and go and shoot them, but it does mean that we want to be careful that we're not staggering ourselves.
Patched up. Everyone heal up.
Yeah. Once again, another kind of wasted heal because we were like down 10 HP and we're right next to our support.
And I've run out of it anyway.
Yeah.
I'll try to do you a favor.
Nice kill.
Good enough.
Alright, so here,
Not good enough.
firstly, we drop health pack once again when we're like full HP. So watching that. Then we also see pulse bomb, and we probably want to be sprinting away at the moment, so that's just a bit faster reaction times, but that doesn't guarantee that you live there. It's just that we don't really sprint.
Sure.
Oh, we saw him. Saw him that time.
Your end is within my reach.
You know what they say? Fool me 4 times.
It's go time.
We didn't come this far to
Okay.
quit now.
We're kind of letting the whole fight run up ahead of us. Like, look at where our team is in comparison to us. So we're like really far back at the moment.
I've got you in my
Yeah.
sights.
Okay. And then at this point, let's take a look. Do we need it? The other thing though is that we can't really even see anything from here, right? Like Mercy kind of flies into it, which kind of helps out. If she's paying attention, she could just ducked around down behind the corner, but that's about it, right? There's Mercy, and then who else is there? So make sure that when we're ulting, that firstly we're not blind visoring, so we're visoring before we even see anything. And then second, like just make sure that there's people to see and people out in the open. One thing when you're visoring is you want people to have a lack of cover when you're ulting, because the easiest counter to your ult that every character in the game has is cover, right? Because if they just run around the corner, then you can't do nothing. So you want to make sure that they're kind of out in the open where they can't run away, and from back here they can very easily run away. So just really far, like we're kind of really delayed in walking out in the fight. So just a lot of making sure we're syncing up with our team. Uh-oh. Why do you think we died there?
Well, 1, I was being hyper aggressive, and 2, I should have been able to hear him at that point.
Yeah. Hear him. See, like if we're walking right side, make sure we're looking right side. We're kind of still looking down main, like you know, as we're peeking. So listening, but then also looking before we're just blindly running in. This isn't hyper aggressive if Hog is not there, but the Hog is there, and therefore, I mean, like this is a little bit too aggro. So main thing is once again awareness, being aware that he's there. That saves us from dying, and once again, that's kind of keeping up our death rate. Uh-oh. And then we get hooked. That's potentially another death there, but we end up getting saved through it. We saw him coming up. I think maybe we heard him coming up. So either it's awareness or also using cover. So Hog's looking to hook us. We walk to the left. If we walk to the left here and get behind these boxes, then that either breaks hook or just doesn't even let him see us in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay, good job running away. Okay, it's in between fights. Probably, yeah, you can be chasing the Tracer, but probably want to be like retaking high ground here too.
Everyone, heal up.
Once again, Helix to open from this range. So
Yeah.
we're kind of mixing that one up a little bit. Very nice.
One's confirmed. Setting up.
Okay. Being on high ground here would probably be really good for you. I mean, so actually, I mean, there are people on high ground, but maybe after we finish off the Mercy, we have a couple options. We could potentially, because look at where their whole team is. Their whole team's up on the high ground, right? So we could potentially do one of two things. Either one, we could like run up through this way, use the health pack, and then shoot at them from here, or we can run up, you know, through this way. This would probably be a bit longer. and they probably wouldn't really be able to, like, you know, soldiers already run all the way over there, right? Like this, right? If we did this, because we have cover to work with, if we just go down the slope, they can't really see us. We drop health pack. If we run back, we have hog. We can just run back into this room, and then we're back to our team. So that would help us to give them free high ground here, which just gives them a big advantage during this fight. And then also notice how we kind of run straight onto the open, so lack of cover here when we probably want to be sitting under the doorway still.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we do back up to the doorway, but at that point, that puts us out of our health pack. So, their combination of being on the open, not using health pack properly. Once again, awareness is like where the players are. They're like kind of. It looks like we're still looking down main when their entire team is already pushed past choke. We're also kind of doing like pixel peeks when Soldier's not really a pixel peek character. So once again, it didn't really feel like we were really synced up with that fight. We're kind of engaging too late there.
Yeah, I should have just ran here as well.
Yeah. Which, so let's go back to this situation right here, right? What are the likelihood that we, like, where would we have to go to make it out here?
Backwards behind the building.
This way?
Yeah. Yeah, they could. Yeah.
Back up with our team, whereas if we don't, then we're going to be getting bad spawns, like coming all the way back from the, you know, at this point, this is staggering right there, is what that is.
Yeah. Fine.
So now we come from all the way back there. All right, we're going to exit out real quick. Not really. Another thing with positioning we're gonna cover real quick is mildly. I don't think we've been doing like too bad with this, but I think like sometimes we're not really going for the best targets. Target priority, right?
Soldier needs a cause.
Basically go for the easiest targets to kill. Those will be the targets that actually die. Now, the hardest targets to kill in the game are the tanks. They are the ones that have that are designed to be hard to kill. They're the ones that have the most health and the most tanking abilities and the most shields and armor and things like that. So, I wouldn't really spend too much time shooting at tanks unless you shoot at the hard things if they are low, out of position, or they're really the only thing you can shoot at all, right? Maybe they're last person alive, or they're in your face or something like that. Then shoot at the tanks. But the same thing applies to other characters, right? Like, you know, there's a hierarchy among all the characters of how easy or hard they are to kill, right? Like, who's going to be harder to kill, a Tracer or a Zenyatta?
Tracer for sure.
Tracer, right? Or a Lucio or Hanzo.
Lucio.
Yeah, so even among those other characters, they have a hierarchy, and we spent a lot of that game looking at their their tracer, and sometimes we'd be looking at their hog when we didn't need to. Occasionally we would, maybe look at soldier always being pocketed, and really the only way you'd be able to kill him is if we land the helix on him, right, to burst down his health, and that'd be the only way we're able to get him down there. So just be careful on that. Now, we have two options. We can either just choose, we have equal opportunity, so tank, support, or damage, right? And we just choose to look at the easier target. That's like kind of equal opportunity. But then, let's say we're in a situation like this, right? Enemy team, our team, kind of your main angle that our whole team's shooting from. If we're trying to get through to their back line, well, there's not really too much we can do from here because the tanks are in the way, right? And we're going to be going through all the shields, all the stuff we don't want to be shooting at. But a really easy way to bypass this is just to do this. Right now we've just gone around the shields, the tanks, all straight to their back line where we want to be shooting at, and then we can get back to our team super easily. It's very fast, it's very safe, and this is what you call an off angle, right? So another example: enemy team, our team, main angle. We run around up to the high ground. This is an off angle. We've just gone around all of our obstacles straight to the back line, and high grounds all act as off angles as long as we're above them, not necessarily if they're all the way over there. Flanks are basically like long and dangerous off angles, and you just want to be careful on which characters you're doing flanks on. Some characters can, some soldier can, because he has high survivability and mobility, whereas a character like Hanzo wouldn't really want to do that because he has low survivability and low mobility. So just be careful about who you're flanking on. But I would just recommend do that a bit more especially offhandling, just do that a bit more frequently. Take high grounds, right, a bit more frequently. That way we're able to kind of get to the things we're trying to shoot at. Whereas we didn't really, like in that last game, we didn't really spend too much time shooting at Mercy. So didn't really spend too much time shooting at Moira. The third easiest to kill. We spent a decent amount of time shooting at the soldier and tracer. Probably like hog was like the within that top three, so just a little bit out of proportion. Sense?
For sure, yeah.
All right, so let's do a quick wrap-up review and go over the main points. Ability usage, sprint just anytime you're not shooting. Honestly, that one wasn't as bad, but still there were times where we could have sprinted and we didn't. It was more like where we could have been running away and we weren't running away, or that last sort of thing.
Yeah.
You have your helix, or not helix, let's do your health pack. Health pack, we just dropped it a lot when we didn't need it. And that means we don't have it for when we do need it, and then sometimes we drop it and then just like run away from it immediately. So make sure you're dropping it where you're going to be sticking around for a little bit. Drop in your cover, drop it on the high ground. Make sure that we're actually low HP or our teammates need it or something like that. Helix with defeat, 20 meters, right? Finisher within it, opener beyond it. Overall abilities, kind of like a then comes your ult usage. I only saw one visor in right? No, two visors.
Two, but they were both 40 players.
Yeah, two visors. Make sure you're using it just more frequently. Don't hold on to it. Use it at the start of fights, not mid or late fight. One of them was outside of the fight when we've kind of already lost the fight, and then the other time was when we kind of already won the fight, right? So make sure you're watching kill feed, right? Don't ult in won or lost fights. Don't ult if make sure there's people to actually see. Use it when they're out in the open, like right here, not when they're like both right here about to run inside the room. Overall ult usage probably about maybe lower end of a medium priority for you to work on. Like awareness and positioning as well that will help push into that. That will help with it. Go for headshots as well in it. Then comes your mechanics. Honestly, I don't know if we talked about target priority there at the end, right? Shoot at the right things, the easiest targets to shoot at. Beyond that, I don't know if we really talked about too much else within mechanics. So overall, that one is probably low. Bit low, medium, low, something like that. Then come your positioning, range, right, 15 to 30, right, is your range on soldier. Pay attention to that. Make sure you're not going too far or too close. We kind of did one or the other a lot of the time. And then beyond that, make sure you're using cover. Good positioning, usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Take high grounds. High grounds is fantastic positioning. Take off angles and flanks just so you can get around to shoot at the easiest targets to kill and whatnot. And it's kind of like any one of those was absolutely atrocious. It was kind of like just a combination of everything. Kind of just always put us in a bad spot. And positioning is kind of what sets up your ability to actually do things.
You had so much potential.
The lower end of that. Then comes your awareness. Watch your health bar. Make sure that we are watching the kill feed, right? 1 to 2 is an advantage or disadvantage. 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight. No ults and won or lost fights. Pay attention to those numbers because people often forget them. 1 to 2, 2 to 3. And beyond that, make sure you're paying attention to your audio awareness, keeping your ears open, keeping your eyes open. Don't just kind of walk around and doing a slow pan everywhere. Do 180s and 360s and look around yourself. That way, we're being aware of what everyone's up to, watching where your teammates are, watching where the enemy are. Make sure not just that was probably one of the big ones. Is just like we were always out of sync with the fight, right? Like our team would be pushing in and we're like all the way sitting in the back. We would be pushing in and our team's respawning, right? That'd kind of be like what happened a lot of times. The enemy team's pushing in on the point and we're kind of just like sitting there. So make sure paying attention to kind of where everyone is on the field. Going to be your positioning number, and then there's probably a big drop off after that point. Then it comes to your visor usage, your ability usage, and then finally kind of your mechanics down at the bottom. Any questions on anything?
No, I think obviously having this booked for a little while now, I've sort of been trying to pay attention to myself, and it's what you've said is pretty consistent throughout all games. I think if we were to watch any of mine, good or bad, we'd probably have the same comments. So now that obviously just having a bit more of an idea and hearing it about what to do, I think I've got some good room to improve. So no, I found that really helpful. I think that's going to be really good.
All right, sounds good with me. So I just stopped